For the next part of the platter, I'm going to add the pattern and also cut the rim into a shape it's going to be a 7-sided lobed plate. And so I'm going to cut out some darts and essentially bend the rim in. And in order to do the measurement, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the rim in 7 places using this, they call it a decorating disc from MKM Tools. You can also find these online. You can print them out of paper and just laminate them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it down. It's got these circles in the middle of it, and they're concentric circles that essentially allow you to lay it out on a round pot and find the middle. So I'm going to take my needle tool. I'm just going to go through the hole and just make a dot. So I'm very carefully going around making sure that I'm getting every number 7. So now I've got those 7 dots that represent 7 even bisections of the pot. Now that I have this platter that I threw yesterday and it's bisected into 7 spots, I'm going to carve a line, a really light line with my needle tool just to kind of map out how far down the rim I want to cut these darts. So I'm going to start the wheel going nice and slow. And I usually go about a finger's width down, so you could measure it that way. It's about a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to hold, once again, I'm kind of bracing my right hand against my left, holding my left hand there. My stepfather would say your left hand always has to know what your right hand's doing. Okay, so now I have this circle which is kind of marked out how far down I want to cut. I've got these dots that tell me where every 7th interval is. I'm going to take my knife. This is a Dolan cutting knife. It's designed kind of like an X-Acto. It's very, very flexible here. It comes to a very sharp point. It's very ergonomic. I can hold it in my hand and you barely feel it when it's in your hand. So what I'm going to do is make a mark in the rim, and I'm just going to cut all the way down to the line that goes around the pot, and it's going to stop right where that point in the platter that I made with the circle separator is. I'm going to go back up on the opposite side and try to cut the exact same line. I'm going to go right up into the spot on the rim that I marked with that profile tool yesterday. So now that I've made this incision on both sides and it looks pretty symmetrical, I'm going to go and I'm going to cut this out by just cutting along the line that I made with the profile tool. Now that that's cut out, I can push it through. If I'm lucky, it'll all come out in one piece. I can work at it a little bit with my knife here to make it come out really evenly. And I used to use a template for this part, but what I do now is I just cut it out, and then I know that this is the shape that I'm looking for. So I just lay it down and I cut it, or I mark it, I should say. And I do that on every 7th interval. And it's really important that I don't actually cut these until I'm ready to bend them. So I'm not going to cut these out. I'm just going to mark them before I get to the actual cutting or bending stage. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wipe away all the little marks that I made to tell me where to cut. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some slip that I've made. It's a joining slip. And essentially what it is, it's a deflocculated slip made from my clay body. And I'm just going to kind of apply that where I made the cut. And then I'm going to take this slip and I'm going to apply it into that groove there. And just a little tip here that can be very helpful when you're doing this. If you use a joining slip that's made out of a deflocculated version of your clay body or your back slip, you don't need to score quite as much. And for this in particular, I try not to score because, especially this outer part of the rim, when you score something like this and bend it, cracks seem to propagate along those score lines. So what I'm trying to do is use a slip that will be very, very sticky and will kind of do the job without having to score this platter. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take kind of a damp sponge and I'm going to just push it into place. And if I'm lucky, I won't get any cracks. And I kind of wiggle it as I push it in hopes that the compression and the pushing action does not split the rim open. This is actually a great clay for that because it's got enough grog that it's a pretty, it's got a lot of green strength to it, but not so much grog that it tends to want to split along the parts where the grog is being pushed. And so I'll just hold it there for a minute, then I'll go back with this sponge and just give it a quick little wipe to clean it up. I'm going to leave it just like that, and I'm going to let this slip dry. I could also go in with a rubber tool now and clean up that line of slip, but I find, I'm going to go ahead and do this now, but I also find that it's even a little bit easier if I let these things sit until I get all the way around and done. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually cut out every single one, because this process begins to pick up speed as I go around. I've already done all the marking. I've done my first cut, so I know about what that's going to look like. I'm going to cut them all out, but I'm going to leave them in there so that the rim doesn't dry. You'd be amazed at how quickly these rims will dry out if there's a gap where air can get through. So instead of letting air get through, I'm just going to make all my cuts at once. I'm going to push them out one at a time and then go and slip them and stick them back in.